And APB, American Protection Bureau, voted #1 best on Long Island for all your security needs. Call 631-390-9050. That's 631-390-9050. APB. The Monty and the Pharaoh Show is brought to you by...
Because wine is your second favorite four-letter word. California wine, New York attitude. Good fucking wine.
Yeah.
Thinking it over, the things you said to me. Started with something, with nothing, now we leave. So you were with me for a while, but now you're gone. And you know, wherever you go, I'm not far behind. I'm not far behind. Starting all over. Too many times we tried, pulling us under. Our time's been swept aside. So you were with me for a while, but now you're gone. And you know, wherever you go, I'm not far behind. I'm not far behind. Oh.
Good evening there, everybody. Matty Rock here on In the Dungeon with Kevin Sullivan, with AA, the Reinforcer, and our friend Cary Silken. Cary, thanks for coming on this evening. We appreciate you, brother.
Oh, no problem. It's good to be see some good friends here.
How are you, Cary?
I'm doing okay, Andrew. I finally recovered. Let's see. April 1st was Ring of Honor, so I left Texas April 3rd. What's today?
Today's what, the 13th?
I think I recovered by the 10th.
You called me the other day. You were checking to see if I had a pulse.
Jesus Christ. No, it's good to see you guys.
Good to see you too.
Cary, let me get right into it. Now that AEW has bought Ring of Honor,
yes,
and even before that, when you sold Ring of Honor, you know, there are some people that don't get the credit in the wrestling business they deserve. I can't do you justice, but could you start naming guys that started with your company, or if they didn't actually train with your company, that was where they got their break? Because this is amazing.
CM Punk, Low Key, Bryan Danielson, Nigel McGuinness, Samoa Joe, Roderick Strong, Jamie Noble, Austin Aries, the Briscoe brothers, Jay Lethal. Let's see. Oh, Tyler Black, Seth Rollins, Eddie Edwards, Davey Richards, Matt Seidel. Want me to keep going?
Yeah, you love it.
He's like, yeah.
Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, Homicide, Delirious. You know, then we can move on to the later, the Young Bucks, my good friends.
Yeah.
And the list goes on and on.
Well, let me ask you something. Is it like a bittersweet feeling that you were able to find your dream, accomplish your dream, get guys involved in the wrestling business where they've gone way past probably where you thought they were going to go, yet you don't get the recognition you deserve on these guys?
Well,
And
all-
you're not that kind of guy. You're not trying to get attraction to
it's
yourself.
all subjective. I
Yeah.
mean, I was never in like a position of glory. Kevin and Andrew and Matt, I looked at myself as a producer. I didn't get involved in the booking. I did, but I needed to. It's like, movie produced by Cecil B. DeMille. Boy, is that old time. Movie produced by whatever, Martin Scorsese, right? So it's like, so what are the jobs of the producers? Well, they're supposed to get like the best people. We're talking movies or theater. You're going to get the best actors, the best lighting people, the best carpenters, the best musicians, so on and so forth, the best truck driver, whatever.
Yep.
So that was so in my time in Ring of Honor, early on with Gabe Sapolsky, then Adam Pierce, then Delirious Hunter. And I would say like, hey, so-and-so I'm not crazy about, or I think you should maybe try so-and-so, but I let them do their thing. And I was more interested in, how the thing looked. One thing that's forgotten about in Ring of Honor, in between 2003 and 4, I brought in lighting. It was rudimentary, but it was 4 poles, 6 lamps on each corner. And Gabe didn't want it. And Gabe was like a rock and roll guy. His favorite band is Rush, and he's a Slayer guy, blah, blah, blah. So he's like, Cary, I don't want you spending the money. We're just an indie. I go, Gabe, when you go to see Rush, or if you go to see a movie, what happens when the movie starts? You turn out the lights. What happens then? Well, the people pop. So we brought that in. And there was another thing. I noticed on Monday Night Raw, they were using those black barriers by ringside instead of the bicycle posts, right?
Right.
So it was almost kismet. Is that the right word, Kevin?
Yes.
That the guy Sid that worked for me, in an attempt to make something, it was like almost a mistake. Instead of he knew that he had to make something that wouldn't break. So he got this these pieces of like aluminum that were like the size of a bicycle rack, whatever that is, 9 feet by 3 feet. And he had this thin aluminum cut, but it was solid. And we painted in black and then the ROH logo. So the people that got those front row tickets, they got to bang on the damn thing. And that was big. If you and Andrew knows, and I think Matt knows, that was a big part of the Ring of Honor shows, as well as the lighting. And as we got through the dark ages, 2005, 6, 7, and I'm a rock and roll guy, we kept adding stuff. We had lasers, this, that, compared to what WWE or AEW does. This is like a joke. But at the level we were doing at, and you know what we had the most of? Pipe and drape. I would never let there be an empty seat. I remember going to see my boys, Jethro Tull. This is like in 2000, and the keyboard player at the time I knew. I went out to Arizona. I said, "Where were you guys last night?" He goes, "Oh, we were in Salt Lake City." I go, "How was it?" He goes, "Looked like a fucking furniture sale out there."
Oh my God.
Right. They had a half a house.
Yeah.
But in my case, if we were in Dayton, Andrew, Kevin, Matt, if we had 400 people, you would not see an empty chair.
Yeah.
So I tried to do all that. And I don't know, Kevin, I felt I've gotten enough credit or recognition. It's all good.
Yeah, well, good.
One of the things that I noticed that you were heavy on perception with that, how people perceived it, seeing whether the seats were full or not. That was a big factor in Ring of Honor. It never looked like it was empty,
Well, Kevin will tell you, and Andrew, you've been all over the world. WCW, WWE, whatever, sometimes they have 3,000 people for TV. You ain't gonna see an empty seat.
Nope.
You
They
know,
bring
and
people down.
you know, when Ring of Honor was, you guys were busy, but April 1st with the Ring of Honor show with Tony Khan, there was 22,000 people in a 3,500 seat setup, but he knew how to light it, or they knew how to light it. So it just didn't give you the chance to see that.
You mean, Cary, I don't want to interrupt
It's all
you,
right.
but you meant 2,200, not 22,000.
No, 2,200
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
in a 3,500 seat building.
But you
Right.
wouldn't know.
But you just couldn't see an empty seat.
Yeah.
So
It's all about perception.
Okay, as we're spinning off of that, what do you think, and I'm not putting you on the spot, but what do you think they're gonna do with Ring of Honor? Will they put it as a separate entity? Will they try to restart it? Will they cross guys back and forth?
you
What do you
guys know as much as I do, legitimately. And I spoke to Bobby Cruz. He called me. He was there last night because they had the Samoa Joe Minoru Suzuki match. And Bobby's asking, like, you know, he'd like to know he has a job, just like all of us would like to know what we have. And I don't think they're ready yet. But to answer your question the best I can, I'm just guessing. It's going to either be 2 weeks, 2 months, or 6 months.
Yeah.
And when Tony Khan finds a space to put this on cable TV or maybe just YouTube, I think the Ring of Honor will roll out. It'll be its own. This is just Cary Silken dreaming. It'll be its own separate entity. And hopefully there won't be cross-pollination. I was very happy to see last night, and I spoke to him earlier in the day, and I know, Kevin, you like this guy, and Andrew, you guys, Dalton Castle
Great guy.
is coming in to wrestle Jonathan Gresham Friday in Texas for the ROH World's title. So that's good. Look, we're in a lot better hands than we were a few months ago.
Yeah. So, I mean, I like that idea that you said too. Separate entity, keep them, don't cross-pollinate, and maybe build them up and go for a Super Bowl, best 4 out of 7.
Like a year from now.
Like a year.
Yeah.
A lot of people were speculating that it was going to be another ECW, like when it fell into Vince's hands, that it was a flash in the pan, you know?
Right. Well, it could, I mean, I don't know. Once again, I don't want to speak for Tony, but for everything I've heard and everything I've seen, he has some respect for pro wrestling, and I think he's going to do the right thing, for lack of a better way to put it.
That's awesome to hear. That's awesome to hear.
But I don't know.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
Cary, I agree with you too. He respects pro wrestling. He was a huge fan, like all of us were huge fans.
Yeah.
Or we wouldn't be doing this. You wouldn't have posters on your wall. But I do like the idea, like you said, don't cross-pollinate, make it a separate entity. And then they can build angles into when it's almost time for them to start working with one another. There would be so many different things they can do, because I was reading that book on the Sheik just recently.
Well, yeah, I spoke to that Brian Solomon, and I haven't gotten it yet. It's got to be fascinating.
It is. It's fascinating. Fascinating. He was very, very kind to the Sheik too.
Wow.
So,
Well, Kevin, you must have known the Sheik.
He was friends with the.
Well, when you read the book, you'll see how many times I'm in there. I mean,
I don't remember you working in Detroit much.
No, but I got fired in Florida one time because they kind of thought I I was going to do something. Like I was working with Mario when I was booking in Florida, and I was trying, because Mario was in our towns with his TV, actually had better channels than us. And then somebody got in their ear, and I got fired. And about 3 days later, I get a phone call from the Sheik. I worked with him one time when Barnett started going to Ohio and West Virginia. Sheik brought me into work with him in Charleston, West Virginia. And other than that, I hadn't even I'd never talked to him in the dressing room, you know? And he called me, he said, man, this happened to me before too, man. He said, I'm going to offer you something. You can take it if you want. Up until that time, it was the most guaranteed money I ever made in my life. Not only did he give me a big guarantee, it was going up.
Kevin, what year are we talking about here, please?
This is 86.
Okay.
I went up to, he had Ontario out of Detroit too, right? And I went to Ontario. Not only did he pay me, he took care of hotels, food, bar bills, everything. He was a super guy to me. And that's, me and Mark went together, and Mark had either the second or third match that Boo ever had. I had matches with him too. So I never forgot what he did for me. I'd book him in Japan. I went with him to Japan, but I booked him in Florida. I booked him in Hawaii with me. I booked him in the Bahamas. East W, got to work with him. So he was
And where was that? Which company in Japan?
This is when he got to Oneida, FMW.
Okay, I thought as well. Yeah. Because Anita was talking about the Sheik the other day.
What?
Anita was talking to me about the Sheik and you the other day. How you brought Sheik in Japan. So I was pretty much sure it was FMW.
Yeah, and he was a great guy. You know, and I've heard other stories about bad payoffs. You always heard the story about the Funks, and a bunch of guys went in to help him in Detroit, but he wasn't there that night. He was either hurt or something. And his son comes in and says, you're not going to believe it. You're not going to believe it. They robbed the cash box at the office, you know, so it wasn't, but I can't remember in the book, and I read it. He was very kind to him. And I really appreciate it because, hey, for the problem, what happened, Cary and Andrew and Matty, see if you think I'm right, Cary. In the because you're a historian. In the 50s, the promoters were promoters. There was very few wrestlers that were promoters. If they were, they ran the towns for the promoters.
Right.
Then after when Vern got it, Fritz got it.
Eddie.
Yeah, but Eddie was the only one that retired. Eddie retired at 40.
Okay.
40 years old, because he saw what those other guys did. Vern stays world champion, and he was a shooter and all that, but he didn't look the part anymore at 55.
So you think it was better to have these guys that were truly promoters as opposed to wrestlers?
Yeah, because that's where I was going with this. The only one that stepped aside was Eddie. And he was 40 years old when he retired. He came back for a special referee. And one time, me and Mike were wrestling the Samoans, and Mike really hurt himself in a motorcycle accident. And then he comes and defended the belts. And here's the crazy thing. He comes to defend the belt with me, he does the job. So he was the only one, whether it was, like I said, Vern, Freddie Blassie in California. You know what I mean? They all, it's hard to get where they were. They didn't want to give it up, but they weren't helping the younger guys.
Right.
And that's what jumped out at me in this book, where I've gone a long way around to get to it. He keeps on saying in the book, wrestling's was looking for the next big thing. We always want something new, Cary, right?
Right.
And that's what they stymied in those territories a lot. They stymied.
Didn't the Sheik essentially kill himself by this winning streak?
He killed 2 territories. He had
But he had a 7-8 year run of huge business.
Yeah, but he didn't. And then when he tried to change, he should have had, in my head, he should have had a line where he said, when I hit this in Cobo Hall, I got to really put some brain power in this and give the younger guys. He went to Toronto, and not only that, when he went to Toronto, he had like 146.
Right, and the Andre the Giant, when he
he beat Andre. And not only that, Cary, guys, his matches were going like 4, 5, 6 minutes. You can't do that every show.
Yeah.
And that's what, and he did that to Detroit too. And hey, he was smart for a long time. Like the Bruiser came in on top of him, tried to take the territory from him. The Bruiser was next door in Indiana. And Sheik beat him. And then Sheik was smart enough to understand they could make money. But they came together and had these big blow-offs in Detroit and Indianapolis and the other towns around each other's territory. But there was never a deciding fall taken in any of the matches.
No.
Yeah.
People got sick of it.
Their ego's too big. Their ego's too big. So sometimes I think that that's why it's funny to think of it now, because he wrestled at WrestleMania. Vince, maybe that's why it was so easy for him to steamroll across the United States, because he was not worried about himself.
Well, I don't know if it was easy, but speaking of old time promoters that weren't wrestlers, do you guys mind if I ask a question?
Absolutely.
We on my podcast that I do with Ian Riccaboni, Last Stop Penn Station, we're joking, and he's a young kid, but he's got a good sense of history. And Andrew, I'm going to bring up a name that you might not even know.
Okay.
And it's okay, because it's in the distant past.
Okay.
Matty might know. Andrew, do you remember? Are you old enough to remember when Jack Tunney was the?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Who was the president of the WWF before him?
Yep.
Do you know who the president was before?
Not Willie Gilzenberg.
Don't do that.
I got it.
Nice. Now check it out.
To the man who doesn't remember his anniversary. Ooh, yeah.
Good. And here, before I'm going to give Kevin the floor, my parents were, Newark, N-E-W-A-R-K, Newark, New Jersey Jews. And that community, they knew everybody, right? And I think I mentioned this to Kevin, and I got a poster. I can't pull it down right now, but Willie Gilzenberg had a partner in Newark. His name was Babe, B-A-B, like Babe Ruth, Babe Cullen. But Willie was associated with WWF. I think he got thrown out of New York State for a while for some shady boxing matches. But before I let Kevin share his experience, I would see it, they would have him on TV once every 5 months, 6, 7 months. It'd be just like I declare this match a Texas death match.
Now, wasn't Willie partners with Gorilla Monsoon and
Yeah. He was involved with Arnold Sullivan, but check it out, Andrew.
Well-
We go to the Ritz Theater in Elizabeth,
okay?
and it's like 1975 or 6. We're high as a kite, stoned out, right? Oh, having fun. And the main event was like Haystacks Calhoun and Tony Garea against whoever, the Samoan somebody. But on the box office, right? Like they took a magic marker and they wrote Haystacks leg infected, no refunds. So we go into the show and it was like 90% Latino at least. Well, why Willie Gilzenberg thought he should do this is beyond me. So the show's ready to start, classic opening bout, Johnny Rods against Arnold Skolin or Tony Alt, whatever.
Yeah, Tony.
And Willie comes in the ring. And I shouldn't make fun of him because I almost tripped in Texas over the ropes. I can't move that good. So Willie trips on the bottom rope and falls down.
Oh my God.
And he gets up and he's like, give me the mic, God damn it. Give me the mic. And he's like, remember those little you guys are all old enough to remember those little orange juice cartons?
Yep.
Right? So they either had orange juice or beer. That's it.
That's great.
So they were throwing
that.
So Willie's like, stop it. I'll close this fucking down. I stopped here to tell you that Haystacks Calhoun is not here and you're not getting your fucking money back. So fuck y'all. Kevin, sorry for that long rant, but tell me about Willie.
It seems like after that, the time was to go to Krug's and then have a few burgers, right?
Right.
Well, let me tell you about Willie. Willie used to come in the gardens, but he'd have to hide. He wouldn't, because he was barred from any sporting event in New York. And the thing was, if you go back, this goes back to, remember Raging Bull movie?
Yep.
When he put Johnny Saxon over?
Yep.
Do you remember that? Do you remember that, Cary?
Yep.
Yes.
I remember.
You remember the movie where he puts Johnny Sax over?
Yes, of course. Robert De Niro.
Sax. Okay. Willie had some part of that promotion, that fight in Cleveland. And then that's what they did. He was barred from any, he ran the longest running boxing events of all times. He ran it over 50 years every Friday night in Newark.
Right.
Wow.
And check this out, Andrew. I learned from reading the magazines, you had to be 14 years old to go to boxing or wrestling in New York.
Yep.
They changed it in 74. So I was dying to go to wrestling.
I'm gonna throw something in. I'm gonna ask you, do you know why you had to be 16?
14.
14?
It was 14. I don't know. I know why, because of the riots.
Yeah, exactly. The riot with Bruiser and
Right. So
Rocca.
I would be watching wrestling at 10 years old and I'd hear the ads. And now once again, my parents were old Newark Jews. This is 1966. The city of Newark was bad.
Yeah,
and I'd
really.
say to my father, hey, Dad, they said wrestling's coming to the Newark Armory. He's like, yeah. We're not going there.
Yeah, we're not going. That's great. We're not going.
Wrestling's coming to the Patterson Armory. It's 1966. He's like, we're not going to Patterson.
No.
But anyway, I'm sorry, Kevin. Willie.
Oh, yeah. Willie, he had set that fight up, and there was another questionable fight. Not questionable. It was found out to be thrown in, I think it was either in St. Nicholas Arena. Cary, can you remember the arenas there? There was St. Nicholas, there was Sunnyside, and there was another.
Sunnyside, St. Nicholas, and I think they used to have it at the New York Coliseum,
There was another one too. That was in the
23rd Street Armory
Yeah.
or some shit.
23rd Street Armory. He had thrown, and there was like I think it was a Nino Valdez fight. Do you remember that name?
No.
He
No.
was a Cuban. He was actually, Patterson ducked him the whole time he was champion. He's the guy that stopped Danny Hodges' winning streak at 14.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, speaking of armories, I got to tell you a funny story. My grandfather on my mother's side passed away after a wrestling show at the Jersey City Armory
Another fine facility.
on another fine facility, April 1st, like 1964 or 63. He died of a heart attack there. April 1st, listen to this, April 1st, 1992. No, 1995. I'm wrestling in the Jersey City Armory. And you know what my aunt says to me? She says, I don't want you to die of a heart attack like your grandfather did. He said,
Have a good match.
in the family with that place.
Andrew, the last show I saw in Jersey City was the IWA with Eddie Einhorn.
Yep, I remember that.
And he was trying to take over the world. But Kevin, I never let you really tell it. Did you have any interactions with Willie?
Oh, he would say hello, but he'd be tucked into the corner. I mean, this was a shoot. They didn't want anybody to see him. And he would mostly, in the gardens back then, if you were looking at the door, looking out, turned around, coming back to the dressing room, on the left-hand side, Vince had Senior had his office back there. And Willie would stay in that darkened corridor. You know, he wasn't being seen by the athletic commission. Would have stirred things up. Yeah.
It's just interesting stuff.
Crazy,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Crazy. And you want to hear something funny?
Yes.
That April 1st thing in 1963 or whatever, Johnny Valentine was wrestling on the show and in the main event when my grandfather had a heart attack. And when I was wrestling on the undercard in 1995, Greg was on the main event.
Interesting.
Wow.
Oh,
Funny.
so you got Valentine to Valentine.
Yep. And I have the poster to prove it. It was pretty funny.
Keep this shit up, Drew. I'm gonna have it that it was you that shot Kennedy. Keep it
I
up,
was
baby.
just
Change the
gonna
history books, baby.
bring up Kennedy.
Yeah.
I got to go to Dealey Plaza again when we were in Dallas. And it's just always fascinating. Always fascinating.
You went to the book depository.
I never had gone to the museum. I'd been in the plaza, and I'm very interested in that whole situation. It's not a conspiracy. It was a murder from three sides, but whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm interested in it. But yeah, it was really nice to go there.
That's very cool. That's very cool. I love, when we're always traveling, we never get to see anything in the wrestling
Right.
business.
That's why I got to Texas on Tuesday, so I could hang
Yeah.
out a little.
Carrie,
Keep saying that we're gonna go earlier, get a day in.
Well,
go
at
visit.
least we got to have some dinners there.
Yeah, we got
Terry.
to have fun. And when I went to London, when I wrestled in the UK in February, I got there a few days early, and the promoter took me to Piccadilly Circus. He took me to Windsor Castle, which was closed, figures, right? And he took me to what is it? The Big Abbey over there.
Big Ben.
Big Ben was under construction.
Oh,
It was reconstruction. Can you figure that out, right?
bitch.
Right? So it was
That was
pretty
Yeah.
cool.
his way of telling you to stay home, bro.
Yeah, I think so, right?
Look, Mr. Anderson, we'd prefer if you'd not come back. No,
Hey.
and on that note, guys, I'm going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. So, folks, we'll be back in a couple moments. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back with the action with our special guest, Cary Silken. So, as you were saying, gents,
hey, Carrie, I got a question for you. You were talking about all those little arenas, right?
Yes.
Did you ever go to Madison Square Garden Bowl?
Well, that was before my time. That was in
Oh,
Queens.
That's what I was asking you. That was torn down early, Gary?
Yes, that was from what I've read, it was in Queens.
Really?
Yes, yes, Andrew. Don't feel bad. It's like from, I think, the 30s, 40s.
Wow.
Yeah, they had a Madison Square Garden Bowl, like in Astoria, kind of.
Wow.
But yeah, no, I never went there.
Well, you must have went to Roosevelt Stadium.
Well, yeah, I saw that match at Roosevelt Stadium,
Stadium.
Eddie Einhorn. My first live wrestling, even though they had that 14-year-old rule
Uh-huh.
that was enforced at the Garden, my Uncle Henry, check this out, and you'll know this name, Kevin. My Uncle Henry says to me, I said, "Oh, Uncle Henry, I want to go see the wrestling, but I'm not old enough." He's like, "Oh," he goes, I'll call my friend Manny." Well, he was calling Manny Hecklin, who ran Sunnyside.
Yep.
Now, Sunnyside Gardens was in 45th Street, Sunnyside, Queens. And this was 1967. And so Henry calls back a couple days later. He goes, "Oh, we're all set up." Manny said, "Fuck them. We don't follow the age thing." And they didn't. And I wasn't the only kid there. It was 1967. What a card. Arnold Skolin, Johnny Roz, Miguel Perez, Angelo Savoldi, Bull Ortega, Luke Graham, Tank Morgan, Spiros Arion. It was wonderful.
Wow.
Cary, that Sunnyside Garden, right? I used to love to work there. You know why? I would catch the Amtrak from Boston. That's a beautiful trip. You go right on the coast of Rhode
Right.
Island, and I would get off at Grand Central. I'd go
Right.
upstairs.
Take the 7
go
train.
upstairs. Yeah, 2 stops, get off, walk right down the stairs, and there's Sunnyside right in front of you.
It's always been a very good neighborhood.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's sad that these kind of things, I mean, whatever. It's sad that everything is what it is, but these were great staples, you know?
I just passed by the old Roosevelt Stadium just now on Kennedy Boulevard.
What's
couple-
there?
It's condominiums.
Now,
You know, I saw Kiss there in 1976.
I got you beat. I saw Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young the night,
Wow.
now wait, the night Nixon resigned.
No kidding.
You couldn't get a more appropriate band,
Oh,
you know, with their songs Ohio and Chicago. You know, they were one of
Hmm.
the American protest bands. And yeah, so I was there 2 years. What were you, Andrew? Like 5 years old when you went
Like 7.
Okay.
So, but I saw Kiss there, and I think I saw Yes. Kiss was my first concert. I saw Kiss there, and I saw Yes there. I think Judas Priest opened up for Kiss at that show, or I think it was,
Probably.
or Stars, or somebody like that. But
SPARZ.
Cary, do you remember Roosevelt Stadium that the Dodgers used to play 10 games a year there?
that's which one? The
Once
one in
again,
Jersey?
It was before my time, but I heard about that. Now,
Yeah.
that must have been to try to appease the people from New York and New Jersey
Yep.
when the Dodgers left Brooklyn, right?
Yep.
No, this
Cool,
is
man.
when they were in Brooklyn.
Really?
It was the Roosevelt Stadium in Brooklyn.
No.
Yeah. No.
They used to play on the Jersey side.
They played 10 games a year. It's like this. When the NBA, when I was a kid, you could buy an NBA game for $3,000. Nobody remembers, they all remember Will Chamberlain scoring 100 points, right? But nobody remembers where it was. It was in Hershey, Pennsylvania. The Celtics used to play in Rhode Island, Providence, Hartford, Portland, Maine. They played for $3,000. And that's back in the day too was the reason why the Dodgers were playing over in Roosevelt Stadium. What I've read was Robert Moses.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
He wouldn't give him the stadium,
Mhm.
and that they were trying to scare him that they're going to move, and then they did.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
Robert Moses was a funky guy, that's for sure.
Isn't there a stadium named after him somewhere there? Or?
At a
There
state
is
park.
something named
He's got a
after
state
the
park. Isn't that
park.
good enough?
Yeah, Robert Moses State Park. Yep.
Yeah,
Wow.
he's an interesting cat, that's for sure. But yet he sort of formed, he sort of formed the infrastructure of the city in Long Island.
Yeah.
I'm sure his pockets were being lined, but of course.
Yeah.
And he did the World's Fair.
Right.
He designed the World's Fair.
Wow.
So,
69, right?
It's still there. It's still there today.
64.
64 World's Fair. Yeah, it's still
I
there today.
remember my parents took me, I was 8 years old, and it was so busy and so frustrating. And I remember I don't remember a lot from this era, but I remember standing on line with my father and mother, like just to get a hot dog and a drink. And it just sucked. It just fucking sucked. They didn't have it organized. We were probably there on a Saturday afternoon, but my parents were good people and they just wanted to take me.
Yeah, my parents did that. We literally lived 1 mile from Palisades Amusement Park, growing up in Clifton Park. And I remember as a kid going on that roller coaster that they put the tarp down on you.
Yep.
You couldn't see what the hell was going on. I think that was the first time I legitimately shit myself in public.
Yep, and then you got mad and you
I did
burned
it
the
the other
fucking place
day.
down, right? See, he just admitted to burning the place down, Kev. We
That
heard
was
it.
towers.
I knew it, you bastard. I knew it.
Kevin, were you ever at Palisades Amusement Park?
no, but I remember the song.
The
I
song.
lost my hat at Palisades Park.
Yeah.
Play
Yeah.
all day or after dark or some shit.
Yep.
Yeah,
Like
Gary.
Hey, how was the Jethro Tull band? The concert that I missed.
Oh, the Martin Barr show?
Yeah.
He's the guy that was with them for,
Yeah.
40 years.
That was all his solos and Aqualung and everything.
Well, right. Whether it's Aqualung, Locomotive Breath, whatever,
Breath.
it was him,
Harry.
him and Ian. So yeah,
Yep.
it was wonderful. Next
Oh.
year, Andrew.
I'll be there.
All right.
I'll be there. God willing, we're all alive. We'll be there.
I hope so.
Hey, don't be killing anybody there, Bubba.
No, I'm just
No.
saying, you know, these days, So I'm not
All
going to
right.
ride New York anymore.
Well, thank you guys for letting me on with you.
Thanks, Gary.
Gary, I love you, man. It was great having you on the
Hey,
show. It's
Ca-
a very big
Carrie-
honor, massive honor for us.
Yes.
Let Kerry plug this podcast, Drew.
Oh yeah, last stop Penn Station. There's plenty of episodes. If you like to hear about New York City in the 70s, 80s, and a lot of pro wrestling stuff, but it's built on characters.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got 4 characters here.
Yeah.
Kids don't understand. These 16, 17, 15, 20, 30-year-old kids, if you're staring at your phone all day, how are you going to develop, what's going to happen to crazy Louie down the street? Right?
Yep.
What's going to happen to old farting Uncle Joe?
Everybody had
It's going to be nothing.
Yeah.
Don't make the millennials crawl up into a ball and cry, Cary. That's you don't
Well,
want that.
so last stop Penn Station. There's plenty of good stories. New York, ticket scalping, lot of fun stories, and a lot of stories that I describe as fun, but they were very rough.
Wow.
So
I'm sure they were.
I love you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Kerry.
Much
for being-
appreciation. Everybody have a good night, and much love to Monty and the Farah
Oh,
for
hold
having
on.
us.
Carrie, before you go away, Carrie,
Yes,
you're a cigar aficionado. You remember those cigars I gave you the last time?
very
Couple of-
good.
They were from Matty. Matty, we're gonna go.
Matty, thank you.
You gotta let me know what you're used to smoking, Cary, and I'll take care of you.
I usually like Padron anniversaries, but I've been taking it easy lately. And I've been smoking more of a Connecticut wrapper.
I got you covered on both sides, brother. I'll text
All
you
right.
and grab your address.
Thank you, bro.
You got it.
See you
Gentlemen,
guys later.
have a good night.
Love
Much
you.
love and stay safe.
Kevin, take it easy. Andrew,
Guys,
take care,
good.
man.
Love you, bud.
Love you
Love
too.
you guys.